Over 100 years ago, a comic strip appeared in newspapers, and it followed the social climbing family that was always trying to keep up with their neighbors. And what was it called? Keeping Up with the Joneses. Over 100 years ago. This social pressure to be as good or better than someone else isn't a new phenomenon. Any reader of literature can point to examples of men and women scheming to look better than someone else. Shakespeare, Jane Austen, etc., 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 right? But when we look through the sociological lens of vulnerability, as we do in our book that we're looking at, Daring Greatly, we see that this could be a shame-based fear of being ordinary. Who wants to be ordinary? As Brene writes in the book, the fear of never feeling extraordinary enough to be noticed, to be lovable, to belong, or to cultivate a sense of purpose. And so we might place our worth on external means. How many Facebook likes I get, or how many people showed up to my get-together, or how many Christmas cards I received, or fill in the blank. And fill in the blank. Never blank enough. Most of us have something come to mind when we say never enough. Could be never smart enough, never successful enough, never good enough, never thin enough, never that goes on and on and on. We all have our thing to fill in the blank. Maybe a few things, maybe even. So what's that about? I mean, it doesn't sound like what we would like. It doesn't sound like a lot of fun. Well, we live in a culture of scarcity and not enough. As Brene writes in the book, we are hyper aware of lack. But our spiritual teachings remind us that where we are, whatever we put our attention on, that's what grows. So we're in this kind of messed up cycle where media and advertisements systems are rooted in keeping us in this delusion of scarcity. Because news about the latest tragedy gets way more attention than good deeds. And though we all know that there are daily good deeds happening, there are awesome things happening. I just looked up really quickly this morning. I Googled good news. And what I found is a bunch of strangers raising money to help these brothers who were in wheelchairs get a wheelchair car. And I found out about, all of a sudden my mind just went, woo, I don't know what I found out about. But there's all sorts of great things happening all the time. Oh, the mosque in Philadelphia feeding 800 police officers who were doing a special parade duty and serving as the headquarters for them during this parade duty that they're doing. Good things are happening around the world. All the time, good things are happening. But that doesn't hit the news. Interesting. And bad news sells ads, right? Bad news sells ads. And then what are the ads telling us? The ads are telling us that we need to be smarter and have smoother skin and perfect hair and the right car and the right dog food and the I added that dog food one because I know how you all feel about your dogs. And it's invasive in our culture. And even though some of us are probably caught on to some of that nonsense and maybe don't listen to it as much as some people do, it is invasive in our culture, and it's influencing lots of people around us, even if we've bought out of it some. And so this culture of scarcity keeps us afraid and territorial and unable to heal and connect, because to do that, we'd have to be vulnerable. And we would have to say that maybe we're not enough. Maybe we need, meet other people, or we need connection, or we need healing. We need help. Heaven forbid. Now, I don't want to live that life of scarcity and lack and disconnection. Anybody? Anybody want to live that life? No? Okay. So, how do we dare greatly? Because that's what this is all about. This is about getting us in the ring and being brave and doing things that are a little scary because it's worth it. And if you remember from last week, those of you who are here, and if you haven't read the book, and you'll know, the focus is about living wholeheartedly. And living wholeheartedly has at its core vulnerability and worthiness. When we know that we're worthy, it also means that we're vulnerable, but we're also strong because we're vulnerable. Doesn't make sense, but it does. And so Brene says the opposite of never enough is simply enough. So what if we believed we had enough and we were enough? What if we believed we were worthy of having enough? I'll say that again. What if we believed we had enough and we were enough? What if we believed we were worthy of having enough? That's it. That's the whole everything. So in the abundance class on Wednesdays, we're talking about the fact that everywhere present is the substance of the universe. There's nowhere that has less substance or more substance. It's everywhere. We just forget and believe that there's not enough. So if we can wrap our brains around the idea that there is enough and that we are worthy of having what we need, then maybe we're ready to see the silliness of the media's constant question of who to fear and who to blame. Because if we're worthy and we have enough, then we don't need to fear. And it's okay to be vulnerable, then we don't need to blame anybody either. We just take responsibility for ourselves and not worry about anybody else's, because we don't need to blame them, because we can be okay without having to make them less than us. That's like super big stuff, I know. Just going to keep working on it, chewing on it. And I get it's not easy as just saying no to change our underlying root beliefs. That's a nice start. So, like I said, we'll keep chewing on this for a while. But a story that comes to mind when I think about this kind of two different ways of seeing the world is the story of Martha and Mary from the Bible. And in case you don't remember the story, Martha and Mary hosted Jesus and a bunch of his friends, or his followers, whatever you want to call them. And Martha was bustling about doing all the stuff, fixing the roast and doing the whatever, washing the dishes. And Mary was sitting there listening to Jesus teach with everybody else. She was just sitting there listening. And Martha was starting to get a little irritated about that. She felt that Mary was being a slacker. And so she said, Jesus, don't you think she should be helping me? And he's like, no. He said, let's see, that she need not be worried and distracted by so many things. That Mary has chosen one thing, and that should not be taken away from her. And so that kind of keeping up with the Joneses thing, doing what's expected of me, needing to be right or worthy, that's what Martha was about, right? I'm supposed to do this, I'm supposed to show up this way, I'm supposed to da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And everybody else is messing it up. Because that's part of it, that, needing to blame someone else to make me right. I'm not the only one in this room who's done that, right? And in this story, Mary is someone who knows how to be present in the moment. She knows what's important and is not going to allow someone else trying to shame her or blame her from being true to who she really is and where she needs to be. It's hard to do that sometimes. But she knew she was worthy of listening to Jesus speak. And she did not need to bustle around to be good enough. Being present was good enough. So I'm going to share this poem by Marianne Williamson. You may have heard it, but let's really listen. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking. So what other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we're liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. So, what if we flip that switch? What if we believed that we were worthy to be ourselves, and that we were enough, and that our presence really made a difference? That playing small to fit in someone else's box wasn't helping anybody. That's just sort of the question for this week. So where do we start? We're going to start with baby steps. Like I said, this is a big, daring greatly thing. It's a big thing. We're just going to keep nibbling. So this week, our homework, what we're trying to do is it's about paying attention. So noticing when the not enough monster, does anybody else have a not enough monster? I have a not enough monster. Yes. All right. We have at least one other not enough monster in the room. When the not enough monster starts showing up. And when that happens, say, now is that really true? Just ask the question, is it really true? And when we have thoughts of scarcity or lack, once again, is that really true? Just ask the question. Sort of like when you see an advertisement, you go, I don't think so. Just ask this question, is that really true? Maybe we'll notice when we find ourselves judging someone or saying that they're less than us. Well, what's that about? We should be curious. Why do I need to say that about them? Is it making me better somehow? I don't know. Just ask the question. Because these deeply rooted beliefs don't go away overnight, just like you didn't learn how to drive in one day, or at least well. We start by noticing. Because I say if we can't see the thing we want to change, we definitely can't figure out what to do about it. So we're just going to start by noticing, going, is that true? Ask the question. Be curious. So if we'll go back to the part of us that knows we're not enough, that there is enough time, that we have enough resources, etc., then we can shift the story. If we can say, hey, wait a minute, there is enough time. There is enough resources. I am good enough. I am worthy. And we'll shift that story piece by piece as we start finding those little pieces where the story's not the way we want it to and changing it. All it takes is remembering that we don't need to keep up with the Joneses or anyone else to be good enough. We're good enough just the way we are.